Hi, it's Dr Ro and Col here. We are, let's get us on the camera there, Colin. We are on site here and we wanted to talk about another key element of a renovation project. So Col, there's internal and external works, aren't there? This is another element of any renovation. This is a slightly larger project here, but let's talk about external first, and I think you want to talk about groundwork as well, correct?
So on this project we've got new extensions going to the rear of the property and to the front of the property.
Yeah.
And once we've gone through building control and we've got sign off on the foundations from the engineer's design and building the approved building inspector, we can then start the excavations, and actually the initial stages is to prepare the site, excavate, and then pour the foundations.
Right, so in the process of, now remember, what we're talking about here is we're trying, whilst we're doing these videos, to talk about two types of renovation, one major and one smaller. So let's imagine for a moment you're looking at a project where something like this is going on. Do you want to just talk us about it? So you're looking at this, what sort of things have happened here, Col? So
so if you have a look at the lower level, we've actually excavated all the way around the existing building and then matched in a new section
just
this side, which is where there's a new foundation just below there and the wall is being poured up. So we have our new extension with the foundations coming round at the rear, and then we've got matching into the existing part of the building on this side.
So when you're looking at a project like this at the start, you have to be planning the timing correctly. They wouldn't have gone in, for example, and gone straight to the roof, would they here?
No,
I think that's the point I want to get across it.
Yeah, we did a strip out internally so we can get rid of all the stuff that we don't need. That clears everything out of the way. Then what we do is we prepare the site to then set out our foundations, do the excavations, and pour the concrete.
Right, and all of that needs to be marked out, planned out, and timed with the builder.
Absolutely.
So that affects the costings, and what type of labour is on site?
Yeah, it can do, because it's quite labour intensive at the start of the project, because you have to prepare the site and then you have to do the excavations. Then once the excavations, you need to take all the soil away. So it's not just about creating a hole and then pouring the concrete. There's a lot of other elements that go with it. But once the concrete's in, you can then clear the site, make it ready for the superstructure to go in.
Okay, so that, I mean, if you look here, I'm just going to spin the camera around, you can see the amount of space that's taken up by all of the, and even here we've got all the soil that's come out of the ground. A load of it's gone out to the back here at the garden. Col, okay, so I'm Joe Bloggs, I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, well I'm going to be doing a small HMO renovation. Is that relevant to me?
Not for a HMO unless you're doing an extension.
Okay.
If you're doing an extension, then this will come into play, because if you've got a small property, and for instance it could be a terrace building, I have HMOs that are terraced, to get the soil and all the excavated material at the back for an extension, that takes some planning by the contractor.
Okay.
So it's more than just simply putting the foundations in.
Yeah. Let's just picture a scene where somebody's bought a wrecked old 2 up, 2 down, and they're going to convert it into a buy-to-let property. Garden's kind of crappy, overgrown, maybe there's an old well or something there. These are still things that they need to be on quite early, correct? You don't kind of leave that till the end.
Yeah, it's good just to make sure everything's planned with your contractor. The contractor will help you do that.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. They know how to do this stuff. You don't need to plan everything yourself, but working with your contractor is really important.
Yeah. Okay, so let's stay on the externals then. So groundworks we just covered there. What other things need to be considered from an external perspective, where we go and have a look at internals next?
Okay, so from the foundations up, you've got your superstructure. So your external walls, your window openings, and then up to your roof levels. So there's another couple of stages here to create the building and the spaces that you need for your property.
I mean, don't be scared by things like this. If you look up there, this is a window that's been ripped out, and it's been out for about 2 weeks now. But this is all part of getting it ready and making it sure that the external is going to be prepared, watertight, etc.
For this property, we're quite exposed at the moment because there's so much structural work going on.
Yeah.
So you can't keep things that you don't need, and you can't have things in your way that could actually impede the works, because you don't want to have any delays on site. So we've cleared absolutely everything, and as we move into the property, you'll see all the structural work that's gone in to support the new open spaces we've created. But we also need to be mindful that the external walls need to come up to put the roof on to then make it watertight.
You just said something that's really important. You said remove anything that could impede the process of the work. So what you're saying is anticipate anything that could possibly hold the builder up.
Yes.
And in fact, even on this project, you were emailing us and calling us 2 weeks before in anticipation for possible things that could hold the project up.
Yeah, it's just having a little bit of foresight with the contractor to know what they're going to be working on next and making sure that everything's ready to do that. They have their plan in their own mind, but plans change.
Yeah.
And they do all the time. It's how we manage that and work with the contractor to make sure we work it as best as we can.
Very good point. So for anyone watching this, I'm going to come back to the more smaller projects. For somebody who's looking at a basic, I'm just going to come around here a little bit. For anyone looking at a basic buy-to-let project, something like that, anything else that we need to add to this really at this stage in terms of this part of the renovation?
I think that if there's any structural works, then just work closely with your builder. It's as simple as that. But if it's a basic buy-to-let refurbishment, then a lot of these elements won't necessarily come into play.
Right.
But then when you move beyond that, even if it's structural works internally, the structural the structural elements of the project will come into play.
And how about the outside of a house? Like rendering in the UK is quite a big thing, isn't it? Damp, cracked rendering. Sometimes people underestimate actually that we had a situation years ago where there was a massive crack on the rendering, and the valuer held, I think they retained £5,000 because they need to break out certain parts of it to check and inspect behind. What's the issue with cracked render on the outside of a property?
So
through the winter particularly.
Many types of different rendering systems, and the older render systems are actually made out of sand and cement render. Now what that means is that that's fixed and applied to the external face of the wall of the building.
Yeah.
Now, if there's any leaks or any water that gets in behind that, what happens is it blows it away from the structure, hence creating a gap, which means that it's blown and that all needs replacing.
Yeah.
So that means that your building is not being weather protected.
Okay.
So that's why that would have come about.
And from a lender, they're not happy with that. So they'll literally say, until we get it proved that it's okay, if it's not okay, it might need to be removed or possibly re-rendered or whatever, or the price needs to be adjusted accordingly.
And there's new rendering systems out now that are insulated and they're made of silicone, so they're flexible and it's actually much better.
Okay.
So there's a lot of options out there.
Excellent. So external and internal we talked about. What I think I'll do is let's watch the next short video we're going to do, and we'll go internal because that's another part of the whole process of renovation. So anything else on external before we finish you're aware of?
I think we've covered them.
Okay, great. Signing out with Colin here, and see you on the next video.